Hello, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. Today I wanted to make a quick chatting video because, it's been one of those days, but you actually don't know. The only person who knows what this day has been like is William Blake. He knows what one of those days is, okay? The topic of today's video, I wanted to talk about using a YouTube channel as psychotherapy. Because, talk therapy is so expensive, but it's so beneficial. So to sort of, fill out the gaps where you're not able to pay $150 per hour to pay someone to listen to you talk, I would definitely recommend starting a YouTube channel because it's more akin to talking to a therapist than talking to a friend because, your friend might stop you and they don't want to hear what you're talking about. But when you're paying someone $150 an hour, you can just go on and, okay, it's obviously very narcissistic to just want to talk talk to yourself, talk to a mirror, talk to a camera sort of thing. Obviously it's narcissistic, but it's beneficial. I mean, you're just getting things off your chest. And I would say journaling achieves almost the same sort of goal, but not quite, because journaling captures a different flow of consciousness, I would say, whereas talking, it's different. But you should be doing both. You should be starting a YouTube channel. You don't even know how beneficial it is. And I've noticed this with a lot of self-help YouTubers, is that when they're making videos, it's like they're talking to themselves. They're talking about, here are the healthy habits you should be doing. Like, you should really be keeping up on your meditation. You should really be eating healthy. Stop eating all that junk food. And you can tell, really, they're not scolding their audience so much, they're talking to themselves. And this is where it becomes very therapeutic, is watching your videos back. Because you can sort of take that therapist role and sort of psychoanalyze yourself, really. And this is the thing that makes me a little uncomfortable about photography in general. Is you're capturing a moment in time that no longer exists. And with video, it's even stranger. It's just so surreal because you're a different person than you were 5-10 minutes ago, let alone a day or a month. So watching that back and seeing the person that you were just gives you really interesting insight into your psychological processes. So I just wanted to share that a little bit of advice. You should just give it a try. And I wanted to share an interesting anecdote. So I was reading this book on magical techniques. I wouldn't call it a book. It was like a short comic. And I was kind of curious, where is the author now? Because I really like the art style, right? Turns out he disappeared after, crowdfunding a tarot deck and then not fulfilling the orders. But anyway, during my search, I found a funny anecdote because in the book he's talking about summoning sigils, and you watch out when you get once you get to the step, because you might start hallucinating. But if you start hallucinating and you want it to stop, don't worry, just have a little booze, because the alcohol shuts down your higher order thinking or whatever that's responsible for the hallucinations. I mean, this is just some guy. This is not fact or anything. But anyway, I was reading this Reddit comments on his disappearance, and someone said, oh yeah, a few years ago I remember reading his book about his struggles with schizophrenia and alcoholism. So I just thought that was funny. I mean, you can pathologize it, you can say it's magic, whatever. It's just a category put after the fact, okay? It's not the real essence of the thing, okay? You're never gonna come up with a word that describes what a hallucination is in that way. And then something else I was reading that's interesting. It's I think it's called the fourth face of Eve, or the title was changed to Strangers in My Body, and it's about this woman who had multiple personality disorder. There's this famous movie made about her. But anyway, so this book is her perspective after the 3 personalities have sort of been integrated, and now she's this 4th personality, looking back on her experiences in treatment. It's interesting because this is kind of early in her life story, because after she wrote this book, she actually met new doctors and they discovered, a couple dozen more personalities or something. I don't remember the exact number. So it's a little early in her story. I mean, whether you believe it's creative, I mean, there's definitely a creative fiction element to this particular autobiography, where she's recreating scenes, talking with the different personalities and with her therapist. And so what's interesting about the structure of her multiple personality disorder is that each following personality was aware of all the other personalities, but the previous personalities weren't aware of the ones that came after. So it was the second personality could watch the first one, and the third personality could watch the first and second, but then the second personality had no knowledge of the third. That was just such a fascinating way of structuring it, because you wouldn't think that it goes that way per se. I mean, like, it's interesting. People don't believe in multiple personality disorder. I mean, it's not like someone's making this up. They're obviously struggling with it, whatever you want to call it. It's just so funny, because I feel like I've always been told, like, oh, it's a grift. Like, people are just pretending. I'm sure there's some other name, like they call it dissociative identity or whatever. I'm not trained in psychology. I just like reading books. And I read another interesting book on the subject recently called Multiple Man. I think it's called Explorations in Possession and Multiple Personality. And it's by Adam Crabtree, who's this eccentric Toronto hypnotherapist. But I mean, all hypnotherapists are a little eccentric. But he had this like house that he would bring people to, like a treatment center, and he would go with all these other doctors and bring people there to like bring out their personality or bring out the demon they're possessed by. So there's some really interesting accounts of that book about these sort of rituals where they're bringing out someone's demon. It's just very entertaining. And an interesting anecdote from that book is it talks about Robert Louis Stevenson and how he explained how he wrote his stories is that he would sleep. And in his dreams, the brownies would craft little stories. And like a brownie it's a type of fairy, I guess. It's like some British thing. I don't know exactly, but like kind of like imagine like an imp or a gnome sort of thing. And they would craft the stories, and he wouldn't know how the story ended. Like he would just write it after like seeing what happened in his dreams, and they would even put in some plot twists that he claimed he couldn't have thought of, and that all his financial success was due to these little creatures. Which obviously I never knew the story about him, but I think that this applies to a lot of artists. I think probably a lot of artists can relate to this feeling possessed by the creative spirit. Not so much acting just from your own logical intention. So I think there's definitely an argument to be made that the consideration of multiple personality or possession gives us some insight into the regular human condition, even of people who are not particularly afflicted by it. Because, I mean, I think to a degree, like, there's facets of our personality that come out, even if you're if you don't think that you have those different facets of your personality, other people will see it. They'll see when some other side of you comes out, even if you don't consciously realize it. Because I personally don't think that I have that, but I'm sure that someone else observing my actions would think that of me. And I definitely see it all the time in all sorts of people. And one last thought, my thoughts on chaos magic. Man, I don't believe in this stuff. No, I believe in magic. I do not like this Discordianism. Like, I do not trust Robert Anton Wilson. I do not trust that man. I'm not hailing Eris like that. And okay, that's the fun thing about having a YouTube channel that's so different than therapy or friends. Like, you don't need to explain your references. You just put it out there. If you get it, you get it. And like, you attract the audience. That is the incredible part. Like, no one who doesn't understand what you're talking about or who finds it so boring or annoying is going to keep watching your videos. But those few people that it resonates with, they'll be like, yeah, this person gets me. I mean, there's definitely some people that I watch on YouTube, and I'm like, it's kind of incredible. Like, they would be an outsider in society, but to me, I'm just like, man, I could watch this for hours. Like, bring out the popcorn type stuff. So anyway, that's my message for the day is start a YouTube channel. Just talk to yourself. Talk to another version of yourself. But then there's so many people out there in the world that other version of yourself is like your doppelganger, your mental doppelganger is out in the world. That's what you got to think of it when you're making YouTube videos. So thank you for watching, and start your own channel, please.